Napoleon Bonaparte by Matthew Henley and Diego Torres. Napoleon Bonaparte was born the 15th of August, 1769, on Corsica, just 3 months after the island had been annexed by the French. He would spend his childhood hating France, the nation he would one day rule. Napoleon's father was from nobility in Italy, but they were not rich. Luckily, Napoleon was talented and got a scholarship to a famous military school.
Napoleon quickly rose through the ranks, and in 1792 he gained the rank of captain. 2 years later, at age 24, the Committee of Public Safety made him a brigadier general. In 1796, he became commander of the French armies in Italy. In Italy, Napoleon won a series of battles, and with these victories gained the qualities he became famous for: speed, surprise, and decisive action. Napoleon defeated the armies of the Papal States and their allies Austria. These victories gave France control over northern Italy.
After the war in Italy, Napoleon returned to Paris in 1797 as a hero. He was later given command over an army meant to invade Britain. But Napoleon convinced the court to send his army to Egypt, which would cut off Britain's control over India, which was a major source of trade income. Ultimately, Napoleon's plan failed because of the British Navy, which defeated the French Navy and cut off French supply lines. Napoleon fled to Paris and took part in a coup d'etat. It was successful, and a new government was called a consulate, in which Napoleon had absolute power over France, beginning his reign. Napoleon Bonaparte is considered one of the greatest military minds in the history of warfare. When Napoleon Bonaparte began a long series of wars known as the Napoleonic Wars with European countries in 1799, he was determined to extend France's territory and its revolutionary borders. Historians view the Napoleonic Wars as a continuation of the wars sparked by the French Revolution of 1789, which had greatly impacted all of Europe and the revolutionized European armies. The Battle of Waterloo, which took place in Belgium on June 18, 1815, marked the final defeat of the French military leader Napoleon Bonaparte, who conquered much of Europe in the early 18th century. Napoleon rose through the ranks of the French army during the French Revolution of 1789, seized control of the French government in 1799, and became emperor in 1804. Through a series of wars, Napoleon expanded his empire across the Western and Central Europe. Unfortunately, a disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812, linked with other defeats, led to his abduction and exile in 1814. Napoleon returned to France in 1815 and briefly resumed power. However, at the Battle of Waterloo, in which Napoleon's forces were defeated by the British and Prussians, signaled the end of his reign and the end of France's control over Europe. After Waterloo, Napoleon was abducted again and later died in exile. In 1814, two treaties signed at Paris, one in 1814 and the other in 1815, marked the end of the Napoleonic Wars. The treaty signed in 1814 was between France on one side and the Allies, Austria, Great Britain, Prussia, Russia, Sweden, and Portugal on the other. This is the end of the presentation made by Matthew Henley and Diego Torres.
Created using Powtoon.